Hello, I'm Matthew Gavidia. Today in the MGH Life Sciences Medical World News, the Center for Biosimilars is pleased to welcome Dr. Swami Iyer, Professor of Medicine in the Department of Lymphoma and Myeloma at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. What are some of the examples of powerful new originator drugs in blood cancers that are out of reach to many patients because of cost?
So I gave you the example of rituximab. Rituximab was approved in 1998, but it took almost 10 years, I would say, to at least 10 years for it to make its way into the generic biosimilar realm in India and be available. And there are at least 3 or 4 companies that do it. And if you look at CLL, the drugs that are available include monoclonal antibodies like rituximab. There's a second generation and third generation rituximab called obinutuzumab, which is available, but because of the cost of Rituxan being so much cheaper than so your first generation is still preferable. And you have the oral medications against chronic myelogenous leukemia, like Gleevec. You have the second generation dasatinib. All those things are available. And some of the most recent entries into blood cancers are agents which have the antibody, but they have the ability to deliver chemotherapy into the cancer cells specifically. So these are targeted drug delivery systems, and brentuximab is one of them. It's called an antibody drug conjugate. It's CD30 directed, and that is an expensive drug. It is available in India, and right now it's only in the reach of the haves and definitely not in the have-nots, because it requires a certain amount of technology and the sophistication. It's possible, but we have not seen that happen with the biosimilar realm. And of course, you have a recently approved drug called polatuzumab, which is not made its way to India. But I know for sure that Genentech has a global company with Roche, is able to provide free drugs. And I have a few patients in India who get free drug supply by virtue of writing to them and making a case to the companies but not all have access to this. So if you know the right way to do it, you have the applications and the doctors there help you, you are able to get some of this free drug supply as well. Of course, the latest and the greatest is the CAR T therapy, the chimeric antigen T cell receptor, wherein we take either the patient's own cells and re-engineer them and give it back to them. The pricing here is pretty high. It's anywhere from $600,000 to $750,000 per treatment, right? So including the cost of hospitalization. So to answer your question, there are many new drugs that are still not made that list in India, like the brentuximabs, like the polatuzumabs, like the CAR Ts, and there is no yet an experience for CAR T in India. So we still are a long ways from that, I think. But we're trying to bridge the gap by allowing them to be investigators in clinical studies, and also, forging alliances to possibly make it happen soon.
You have expressed your belief that development of new generics and biosimilars are necessary and that compulsory licensing would help. Can you explain the Doha Declaration and how that would work?
So the Doha Declaration was essentially an aspect, an element that came out of the talks that happened between all the countries beyond G7s and the G20s, and how all the countries can work together. And countries generally work not in their interest. There's a certain amount of protectionism with every law and every economic policy that comes across, but there is also the larger good, right? We talked about the drug company and their protectionism, each country and its protectionism, but there is also the larger good at play. And the Doha allowed for some leeways and flexibilities into being able to partner and collaborate and possibly look at essential medications. For example, the WHO has a list of essential medications that have to be available at no cost, and WHO sort of endorses some of those things and makes it available in some countries in certain diseases. So Doha Declaration is one of the policy framework for us to allow us to do that, for the collaborations to happen, and there might even be some economic help, I would say, for the countries and also for the participating companies and corporate units to that. But essentially, the Doha Declaration allows you to think of a drug and what it might be, allow you to do for the patient population in that particular country, and you sort of think of the larger group good, even though the goal is not making money, quote unquote, but you're helping a patient population, you are saving lives. I think by price capping is one way of doing it. Price negotiation is another way of doing it. So these are all different ways of approaching the problem. The Doha Declaration is a framework that allows us to do that.
And what would it take to get the Doha Declaration implemented in the United States and in India as well?
So in the US, I think it's a very different situation. And I think the Doha Declaration may or may not necessarily be relevant because there are a lot of forces at work here as well. And I think the market forces obviously are much stronger, even in the healthcare. And the pricing is still an issue, whether it is pricing of the drugs or pricing of hospitalization. I think those are issues that are being addressed at one level or the other. But it's a slow-moving process, and it looks like there is an executive order that is being put out there and from the president. But at the same time, there are a lot of challenges to that as well. So, but there is an idea. There is still the intent to come up with better pricing in the US as well, even possibly importing certain drugs from certain countries. And of course, this is both policy and politics. So I don't want to I don't have the qualifications to talk about that. So that being said, I think in countries like India and countries like Asia, I think they're in a much better place to implement this because they are at the receiving end of this. So if they are able to use the Doha Declaration and or other global policies to negotiate with the company, to talk to them about trying to price down a certain product and help a larger population. So it helps other countries than a country like US, I would say.
To learn more, visit our website at centerforbiosimilars.com. I'm Matthew Gavidia. Thanks for joining us.